price of bears had dropped on the black market. He urgently needed to buy himself a bear. Rumor had it that a factory had gone under. The bears had fallen into the hands of street vendors and were being sold for next to nothing. As he got ready, he was happy, excited, and daydreaming about the bear he would buy. If anyone saw him doling himself up for a bear, he'd surely become a laughingstock, but he didn't care. He doused himself in perfume and stepped outside. The sky was overcast, but he refused to let it dampen his spirits. With quick steps, he headed to the bus stop. Every gust of wind made him angrily fix his hair. It was crucial for him that the scarf around his neck stayed perfectly adjusted. When he got on the bus, he had to stand among the crowd. Silently, he cursed the people brushing against his clothes, shoving him, sweaty and reeking. He wanted to get off that bus as soon as possible. The things happening to him on his way to his bear felt like they had been lying in wait for years, finally pouncing the moment they got the chance. He shook his head. He wouldn't allow it, wouldn't let this treacherous order win. When he reached his stop, he rushed out in a panic. He pulled a mirror from his pocket and fixed himself up again. He doused himself once more with the perfume he kept in his bag. Then, he set off toward the market. The faster he walked, the lighter his feet felt, as if they might lift off the ground. His grin was impossibly wide. Someone else might have thought his mouth would tear. When he entered the market, he saw stall after stall decorated with all kinds of bears in droves. His heart was pounding so hard he had to stop and calm himself for a moment. With dignified steps, he approached the nearest stall. The vendor immediately sprang into action, launching into an explanation of how cheap the bears were. He motioned for the man to stop. He wanted to look for himself without any interference. One by one, he touched the bears. Even if the vendor grumbled, he didn't hear it. He stroked their fur with the back of his hand. But he couldn't bring himself to decide. They were all so beautiful and fluffy. The question of which one would fulfill his dreams, which one he would take home, became so unclear that cold sweat broke out on the back of his neck. He spun around in a panic and ordered himself to calm down. At another stall, I'll find a bear so perfect that all my hesitation will disappear, he thought, and he couldn't bring himself to leave the market until nightfall. He had rushed from stall to stall, drenched in sweat. None were any brighter or more perfect than the others. They were all the same, like products from the same factory's soulless, and yet so varied, each one a perfect bear. His shoulders had gradually slumped. Over those few hours, he had collapsed inward. The excitement he'd felt coming to the market had long since faded. The vendors no longer paid him any mind. They had started packing up. They were loading the bears onto trucks. Wait, he wanted to say to them. Wait, I haven't decided yet. But he didn't even have the energy to say that. Maybe worse, he no longer wanted a bear at all. He sat down on the curb and watched the darkening sun, the dismantled stalls, the vendors' noisy chatter. He watched until the trucks disappeared, one by one, on the horizon. I'll never have a bear, he thought. Maybe the imperfect one is me, and I'll never understand what's perfect anyway. He stood and walked toward home. He wouldn't take the bus. There was no trace of his quick steps from earlier. Now, he moved silently and calmly along the sidewalk, like a shadow.